Disclaimer: this episode discusses suicidal ideations and extreme content that may be triggering to some. Listener discretion is advised. You're listening to 8158 Stories of Sacrifice, where we honor the bravery of the first responders and the families who stand behind them. Real people, real stories, real heroes. This is 8158. Welcome back to another episode of 8158 Podcast Stories of Sacrifice. Our guest for today is Patrick. Patrick is former military, United States Marines, and also he is a retired law enforcement officer. How's it going, Patrick?
It's going good, man. Thanks for having me.
That's pretty awesome. And just so everybody knows, Patrick is also a DJ on the Thin Line Rock Station.
Yes,
so
the dumpster fire.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's how Patrick and I got connected, was through the Thin Line Rock Station. That's pretty awesome. So I'm just going to go ahead and dive in. Tell us a little bit of your story and your background and why you got into the military and law enforcement. What was the drive for that?
So growing up, my adopted father was an Army Ranger, and I got excited about the military, but then they got divorced, so it was kind of like a single mom situation, and I was just trying to figure out what do I want to do in life, just figuring something out, right? Graduating. Oh, okay. So so getting out of high school is like, what the hell am I going to do, right? So I had no desire to go to college, didn't really have an idea of what I wanted to do in regards to work, so I was like, fuck it, let's go to the military. So went to the recruiter, signed up as an 0311 infantry, went to boot camp in November of 98. Boot camp stories are legit. All the stuff that you kind of seeing here, where they're just trashing you every single day, and it's tough, but it is manageable. You just have to play the games. You have to understand, the cycles of how boot camp works, right? They're going to break you down, they're going to build you back up, and then you become a team. But yeah, I definitely got my ass smoked tons. I was the guy that would always laugh, just because, you'd hear funny things happen and you were going right to the quarterdeck and you'd have to pay for it. Boot camp, 13 weeks, graduated from there. I went to School of Infantry after that. And that was another, I want to say it was like 2 or 3 months. I can't remember the exact. That's where you really hone in on your infantry tactics. That's where you learn how to do ambushes, all the different formations, kind of work more as a squad, fire team, all that other stuff, and then build from there. You really just learn how to shoot all the different firearms at that point, because in boot camp, you just do the M16, and then from there, you learn how to do everything else. From SOI, graduated from there, and then that's when I hit my first duty station, which was at Camp Pendleton. I was part of 1st LAR, Light Armored Vehicle Reconnaissance. We were set up as the scouts that were in the back of the vehicles, but we didn't like it. So our platoon sergeant actually started a new type of, platoon. It was called RAM Platoon, which stand for Reconnaissance, Ambush, and Marksmanship. So he was kind of honing it in off of like a stay platoon style motto. And a stay platoon is surveillance target acquisition, which is a sniper platoon, essentially. So we were doing a lot of those types of things. And I had a blast, dude. We were in the field all the time, just kicking ass, taking names. And then it got to the point where it's like, all right, we need to finally hit a deployment. So we actually left 1st LAR and we went to 2-1, which is another unit. I was part of the Echo company, and we were part of what's called a trailer platoon. And trailer platoons are essentially what we did is we worked with first Force Recon and I want to say it was 3rd Navy SEALs, and we were attached to them as a security platoon. So as they did their raids in the house, we were outside security. If we had to infill with them and do something, we did all this stuff with them. So we had to learn a lot of the CQB tactics that they had. We had to do all the same certifications. So like if we did VBSS, which is a visit, board, search, and seizure on a ship, we had to do the same type of training that they had to do. So we would get inserted either by helo or by boat, hook and climb or fast rope down, and work through the mechanics that they did. So we got a lot of really cool training, a lot of really just cool places to go to. Middle of nowhere out in Santa Barbara, you'd be on a gas and oil platform in the middle of the ocean, and we're just living on it, working on it, and then learning how to kind of function through it methodically, if you're taking it down for hostages or bad guys or whatever. So we actually got to deploy. We were attached to the 11th MEU, and MEU stands for Marine Expeditionary Unit. So it's a big fighting force that gets placed out in certain areas of the world at any time, so that if something does happen, that's your fighting force that will respond within 24 hours. And it's usually about 3,500 Marines and sailors, 7 big ships. I mean, you have all the equipment there ready to go, drop of a dime. The deployment itself wasn't too crazy. It's still pre-war or pre-9/11 at this point. We were out in like Jordan. This was right after the stuff happened with the coal bombing and stuff like that, if you remember that, in Yemen. So
Yes.
things were starting to escalate a little bit, but nothing super crazy at that point. So then deployment was wrapping up, end up going through like Hawaii prior to hitting United States or actual land in United States. So you'll stop in Hawaii, and if you wanted to, you could actually fly home early and save yourself a couple days of being on the ship. So September 10th, I fly back from Hawaii, hit California, and then wake up the next morning to the 2 planes hitting the towers. And I went right back to the ship, and then now we're figuring out how to function in life with our country actually being terrorized. So that was a huge shift in life. I mean, everything just kind of flipped upside down. I mean, before everything was non-war, and now it's like, holy shit, things just got real. So I was in for 2 more years, got out in 2002, and then came back to Arizona, where I'm from. I was working civilian sector for a little bit, and I was working for credit card companies. And I don't know if you remember back in the early 2000s, that's when a lot of the corporations were sending like their call centers to like Manila or the Philippines, because it was like cost of living was way cheaper and cost of labor was way cheap. So they were, big companies were just sending all their call centers over there. So I got laid off a couple times, and then had my son, and he was about 1 year old. And it was actually Halloween day. I got home early from work, and I was like getting ready, we're going to take him trick-or-treating for the first time. He was going to dress up as a dragon. So I was super excited, first dad trick-or-treating with their son. So I was excited. And we had the doors open and just kind of relaxing in the living room. And my dog busted through the screen door and starts chasing a dude in my backyard. And as the guy jumps the fence, 3 sheriff deputies jump my fence, run through it and keep chasing him on foot. And I was like, this is crazy. My bubble has just been invaded. And it was a very uncomfortable feeling.
Yeah.
So that following weekend, I signed up to do a ride along with that same agency that was in my backyard. Absolutely loved it. And from there, immediately started applying for the police department. I applied for Mesa Police Department in Arizona. It's the second largest city within Arizona, Phoenix being obviously number 1. And just kind of a difference in size. Phoenix is in the millions of population. Their police department's about 3,500 officers. Mesa, being the second largest, was about 800,000 for citizens living there, and their department was just under 900. So definitely a huge difference in size, but being the second largest city, it definitely had all the same crime, all the same type of stuff. So it was a good agency to go to, and I absolutely loved it. So 06 is when I actually got hired on, went through the academy. Academy was way different than obviously boot camp, much easier to circumvent, just being 8 to 5 versus 24/7. I loved all of my classmates. I mean, we had multiple agencies there, majority being for Mesa, but we had about, I want to say it was 55 or 60 recruits that went through the class. So pretty good class. Mesa has their own academy and stuff like that. All their facilities have everything that we need there. So it was a good place to go through the academy. 20 weeks there. Then you go into post academy, where you do another 3 or 4 weeks of learning how to transition from recruit to now officer to now getting ready to hit the road as a field training officer, an FTO or whatever like that. So finally hit the streets. It was actually Christmas Day, and it was not what I expected. First call I went to was a dead body. Husband had a heart attack, and it was in a Hispanic family. So it was weird seeing their culture braced around death because it was a natural death. I want to say natural in regards to he had a heart attack, but everybody was there: aunts, uncles, kids, grandparents, like everybody, and they were embracing what happened versus some cultures or religions or whatever, they separate from it, and so only the key components of like the most important family members being there, and everybody else just kind of pushes out. So it's definitely just different seeing that side of it because that was not something I expected. I mean, FTO was good. I had a good field training officer, but he was definitely old school. He's one of these guys that like been on the department for 20 plus years. And it was like when 8 o'clock hit, he had to have his coffee. He had his routine. Like it was just one of these things where I wanted to hit the streets and he was like, nope, it's coffee break time. I got to get my breakfast burrito and this kind of stuff. And, we got to respect it because this is a guy that's essentially going to sign me off to move to the next phase. So I got to play his game. But it was good. We went to a lot of really intense calls, a lot of really good training type things to prepare me for the next phase. Went from day shift to graves, totally different. I mean, going from normal people out on the street to now everybody that's on the street at midnight is either a cop or a bad guy. It's just how it is. So definitely seeing a different environment, different type of clientele was eye-opening, but it was a blast. I mean, running code 3, lights and sirens and most things because they were legit calls versus, a soccer mom who got in a fender bender and it's just like, we need to exchange information, that kind of stuff. So it was a lot different type of environment. From there, I went to swings, which is like a mid shift. So you start at 2 and end at midnight. And then for your final phase, you go back to your initial field training officer and they do kind of like a shadow phase where you're in a car by yourself and they just show up to the calls as kind of like your backup, but they're still evaluating you and make sure you can function like a normal person. From there, hit the streets, and I hit the road running, man. Like I enjoyed cop work. It was fun to be on your own. It was fun to find all the stuff to get into, and it was cool to kind of hone in on tactics and being able to talk people into handcuffs and just kind of learning, tradecraft. Like it was just amazing. From there, I mean, I did different things, different districts, different shifts. I restarted the bike unit there. We had a light rail system come through our main drag of the city, and they needed to figure out a way to get to calls faster because cars having to go around all these barriers, it would add some time. So we implemented the bike unit, had a blast there. I mean, we were arresting anywhere from 8 to 14 people a day, and we really made a name for ourselves in regards to the people on the streets. So this main drag is all like pay by the hour, motels, hotels, hookers, drugs. I mean, gangbangers. Like this is like the main drag through downtown. When you have guys riding on bikes and you see the crowd just kind of move out as you're riding through and then come back in as you pass, they don't want to talk to you for a reason because you're just going to mess them up a little bit. So we had a blast. I mean, we were arresting tons and tons of people, tons of just drugs and stuff out the streets, writing search warrants on trailers and
he froze up,
getting dope, stolen guns, all the stuff. It was just good times. And we were doing it on bikes and shorts, like, so we were literally like, everybody made fun of us because we were wearing shorts, but I was like, hey, I'm having a good time and getting a suntan on my legs in Arizona. So it's good. Whatever works. From there, left the bike unit, went back to Graves. That was just my bread and butter. I just loved dealing with those types of clientele. And that's when things kind of started getting different for me on the job. And that's when I had a lot of the calls that eventually ended my career on a medical side. I did retire medically due to PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
So throughout my career, I had 9 infant deaths. And when I say infant, I say 0 to 2 years old. The youngest I had was 29 days old. And it was one of those things where you could throw anything at me, but you throw a kid in the mix and it just changes everything. Like you could be the baddest dude in the world, but you throw, a kid call in there, like you're going to have people buckle. It's just the nature of the beast. So kind of to give you some context, 1 year, I had 3 infant deaths in a 4-day span. So my first one was on my Monday. I was riding 2-man with somebody because he was getting ready to have a baby, and his wife could call at any moment. So I was like, "Hey, just jump in the car with me. We'll work as a team. I'll take all the paper. I'll do everything. You're just here, obviously, until you're ready to be called to go to the hospital." So we went to a SIDS call, SIDS death. It was actually a foster mom who made the call. She, this was a child that was placed with her due to DCS circumstances. SIDS case, I want to say the kid was a year and a half, pretty young. So just navigating through one, seeing that image, right? Having to deal with that, dealing with foster mom, all of her cries, just the fact that she felt that she did something wrong, and obviously it's not her fault. But then, those sights and sounds are like forever grained, burned into your brain. It's always going to be there. So that call finally went through. The next day had another SIDS call, which actually wasn't mine, but I was responding to the hospital that this child was being transported to, which was also weird because usually on a SIDS call, you wouldn't transport a child to the hospital, but there must have been something that they felt was viable. So they rushed him to this hospital. I show up, go through the emergency room like I'm supposed to, and they think that this call is mine. So they're like, "Hey, your kid's in trauma 1." And I was like, "Oh shit, what's going on?" Because I was just there to take a report on a kid. It was like a child abuse case or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I walk into the room, and all of a sudden, like, they are just working this kid. And I was like, "This is not mine," but now I'm here, so I have to kind of be there. So if you've never seen life-saving measures done on a child, it is not pretty. It is very violent. Seeing a 200-pound dude just crushing a child as they're doing CPR and all that stuff is not something you necessarily want to see, but it is life. So, I'm standing there, they're doing the thing, and all of a sudden, the doctor looks at me and he's like, "All right, time of death is this." And I was like, "Shit, dude, like, this is not even my call," but now I'm here and I watched all this. Day 3, nothing happened. Good night. I was like, sweet, my curse is over, whatever. And then day 4 happens. And that was actually the worst one I had. So I was actually at the station writing some paper. It was like 4:00 in the morning, and it was August. So in Arizona, August at 4:00 in the morning, the asphalt is still very warm. You could probably walk on it barefoot, but you're going to feel that heat. So the reason I bring that up is I'll tell you in a second. Get a call for a non-breather call, which was at a hotel, like 30 seconds away from where I'm parked. Drive there, pull into the parking lot. There's a car, a red sedan. I want to say it was like a Volkswagen Jetta or something like that, with the doors wide open on the driver's side, and then the back doors were wide open as well. That seemed really odd to me, but it was one of those things you just take it in as you're arriving on scene. As I pull up next to it, there's a kid crying in the back seat in a car seat. And there's a gentleman walking through the parking lot just on the cell phone. And right at my feet is literally a 29-day-old baby on the hot asphalt. Not in a car seat, not on a blanket, literally laying just right on the asphalt. Immediately pick the baby up, start doing CPR and all that stuff, and blood starts coming out of nose, mouth, ears, all that stuff. And I'm like, holy shit, like, what is going on? Like, this is not what they taught you in the CPR training. Like, this is not normal. Luckily, fire was already en route, so they arrived just moments later. We're able to load up the kid into the ambo and rush to the hospital. So at that point, like, my world had just stopped. Like, I just had this kid bleeding in my arms as I was trying to do CPR, just get rushed to the hospital, and I have no clue what just happened. So I'm trying to gather my bearings. Other officers are showing up on scene. They're talking to the dad, trying to gather some information and just figure out what the hell's going on. And what happened is mom actually was in the hospital currently at that time with a staph infection due to the C-section that she just had when she gave birth to the child. So dad was sole provider of both the 29-day-old baby and the child that was in the back seat. Well, dad had slept with baby in the bed and rolled over on the child. And then when he started noticing that the baby was convulsing and stuff like that, that's when he was trying to get to the hospital to render aid. And then he stopped at the hotel where ultimately I showed up. Well, from what I found out is that the pressure of me doing the CPR is what actually caused the blood to come out the way it did. So I'd not done anything wrong, but of course, visually, that's what you see. So right after, child gets taken to the hospital and stuff like that, sergeant arrives on scene. They're like, hey, you need to go home. And I'm like, why? Why are you sending me home? Like, this is what we do. We're here to help people. And they're like, well, hey, we know that you've had the other 2 kid deaths and you just need to go home. First thought, in my mind is like, do I need to call my attorney? Like, this doesn't make any sense to me. Like, it's not registering. Hey, they're looking out for you just because you've had 2 other kid deaths. It's like, why are you making me do something that's not normal? So for that week, I go home and I didn't know at this time what had happened to the child. Like, I just thought I killed this kid. So for a week, that's just festering in my brain, and I'm not doing good with it. But finally, I find out what happens. It kind of gives me some peace of mind, and realizing that I didn't kill his kid, but that was my my 3rd kid death. Shortly after that, I get back to work, but I start having night terrors. I start having all the nightmares. I'm avoiding family. My home life is starting to change. I'm not functioning like I should. I get home from work and all of a sudden I'm just glued to the chair, and my wife's like, hey man, let's go do stuff. And I'm like, nope, I can't leave. Um, simple things like, hey, what do you want for dinner? Like, I couldn't even answer those questions because my brain was literally just shutting off. So I got to a point where I was ready to call it quits. I stood at work with my patrol car with my gun on my hip, and I was ready to end it right then and there. And something changed where it was like, hey, I need to see if I can go get some help. So I found a counselor who took me in I called the counselor on a Thursday. That She took me in on a Saturday evening around 6 p.m. And she's like, hey, we need to get you in because I can just tell something's not right with you. So took me in. We started talking. First thing she said to me is like, so what the fuck happened? So that eased my mind a little bit because she was talking to me real versus like, okay, let's try to understand this. So she talked to me real, which made a huge difference in the way that I talked to her, because I was able to unload on her properly versus like trying to dumb it down or figure out a way to make it nice. But she was phenomenal. She started working with me, got me started with EMDR, brain spotting, did some neurofeedback, did a lot of different modalities that I'd never tried before, which was really good. And ultimately, I got back to the job. I was working for a couple more years, but guess what? More kid calls. Even though I was doing better, it was another re-trigger of that initial injury, and it just kept compounding the problem, which ultimately just made it worse. Finally, I had my last call. I want to say it was November of 2022. I came home to my wife and I was like, I can't do it anymore. I need to walk. I know if I stay on the job, it's not going to happen. So put in my paperwork, went on short-term disability, and then started the retirement process. The city put me through 6 months of testing. I had to go to a couple independent medical exams, which are not fun because they dive into everything and anything that they want to. And you have to be honest. Obviously, if you're not, then it's going to be held against you. So they do their reports. The psychologist does, then psychiatrist does one on them, and then they provide the stuff to the city, and the city makes the ultimate decision on whether or not you can retire. Luckily, they saw that I had an injury and they allowed me to retire, and I retired June 1st of 2023. So it did take me almost 7 months to finally retire. So it was a little long process. The paperwork and stuff was super easy. I mean, it's just your life story. The bad part is you're sitting there to your own thoughts and darkness, and you're just hoping that this is going to work out. And finally it did. So went from retirement to now being a bum, right? Now I'm off the job. I was like, oh, this is going to be great. I can do whatever I want. But it wasn't that simple. There's a transition period where you have to transition from being a warrior to a civilian dad, that people don't tell you about. There wasn't a class like in the military. You have a thing called TAPS where you transition from military to civilian life. They send you to a couple different classes. They talk to you about different things. There's a transitional period that they kind of get you ready for. But when you retire, like when that door shuts, it's the loudest door shut you'll ever hear because nobody looks for you again. You are just a number. And I was probably replaced before that door even shut. And it's not any fault to the department. It's just that's how things work, right? As an officer leaves, one needs to obviously fill in because crime and all that stuff does not stop. It's just nature of the beast. I love the department I work for. Are there mistakes that happen here and there? But I still appreciate the career that they gave me and the support that they did give me and the retirement that they provide me now. So it is a good department. I know a lot of people, get jaded and they're like, fuck them or whatever. Like, that's not how I feel. So as I was transitioning, got involved with some groups, support groups and stuff like that. Ultimately, with a group of officers, we started a new foundation called the Afterwatch Foundation. And that's what, the radio show is based off of, the Afterwatch dumpster fire. But within that group, we have tons of peer support specialists that we've incorporated within the first responder realm, police, fire, EMS, dispatch, also some of the civilian counterparts. So you have like evidence and like crime scene technician in there. And then we also have the DOC, so Department of Corrections. So we incorporate that all within our spectrum of first responders, because it's not just cops and firefighters. Like all those different sections have a piece of that call at what section in the time, whether it's taking the incoming call to locking up the criminal at the very end, right? It's a full spectrum of stuff. So we want to make sure we incorporate everybody in that when we talk about first responders. We have a Wednesday peer group that meets locally within Gilbert, Arizona. And we have anywhere from, I want to say, to like 10 to 20 people there. And the facilitator will talk about a topic. And hopefully that topic resonates and the conversation revolves around that topic. So it's not one of those things where it's like an AA meeting where, you and I go and I tell you my story and now you tell me your story, but we're trying to one up each other's stories. Like, that's not how it works, because your 10 is your 10 and my 10 is my 10. If your 10 is a building blowing up and my 10 is me stubbing my toe, you have to respect that stubbing my toe is the worst thing I've ever had to deal with. Just like, your building exploding is yours. And that's where it's really cool how people respect each other in that regard, because it doesn't matter what the calls were or how the calls ended or what transpired in those calls. We can all look at it from different angles, different experiences, different lengths of time of being on the job, and kind of give feedback, opinions, ideas, different solutions to problems, that kind of stuff. So it works really well in regards to functioning group, and it not just being like, hey, I'm gonna one up your story kind of thing. So it's pretty cool in that regard. We also run a podcast as well. It's called After the Call. So if anybody wants to subscribe, smash that button. We do tons of different projects within the group. Right before Christmas, we were doing a reconnection program with first responders, and it was kind of started with the idea of, like, I missed out on my kids' stuff, being on the job. Like, I never went to a daddy-daughter dance. There was a lot of missed Christmases, holidays, all those different things that I wasn't available for because I was working all the time. So we were like, how can we reconnect a first responder with their child doing something that they can learn together? So we partnered with a lady named Jenna. She owns a bunch of horses, and she does equine therapy, but on a much different level. She incorporates EMDR and brain spotting and person's work while you're working with the horse. So it's not like, Rico, you're just going to come in and brush this horse. I'm going to have you actually work with the horse, figure out how to function with the horse as we're talking about what's going on. So that way the horse is actually what is causing the EMDR versus you like following a dot or a light or something like that. So it's very interesting, how this 12 to 1,600-pound beast is able to get people to calm down and kind of function through these tragic events, as well as connecting either a father and a son, or a daughter and a father, or, a mom and a son, or whatever, to where they're learning how to function with this horse properly and building a new relationship to function now versus, missed events in the past. So we did that. We did some stuff with Thanksgiving and Christmas, making sure we had first responders taken care of with meals. If something financially is messed up, or like we had one family where their kids were in the hospital due to some, I don't know if it's terminal, but obviously some long-term medical effects. So we wanted to make sure we provided them with the proper meal and that they could come back to and not have to worry about that, because that's just one less thing that they had to worry about that was on their plate, so that they could spend more time with their loved ones. So we did that. And it's just now we're trying to see what we can do to build to that next level of resources, aftercare, and just providing that peer connection with first responders that are dealing with the same problem that we're dealing with. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
Pretty awesome. And that's the Afterwatch Foundation.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. You can find us on afterwatchfoundation.com. We have Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, all the different social medias. Like, we have a person that's running all of our stuff just because I can't keep up with it.
That's a lot of stuff to keep up with.
Yeah. Daily posts. Like, I can't even keep my shit together. So
Trust me, I don't do any of that either.
yeah,
And does that.
good for you. Yeah. Having somebody do that for you makes it so much easier.
He's a lot more savvier than I am on the technology side of things.
Good for you. Yeah, man. So that's kind of like the I'm going to say the quick lowdown and dirty of my career. I did do 17 years in total as a law enforcement officer and 4 years in the Marine Corps. I wouldn't change it for anything, even though I had, the tragic stuff that happened. And I only went to, a few types of calls because I've had tons of different stuff over those years. But what I've realized is that through the refining of religion, like, for me, I was placed in those types of calls for a reason. It wasn't happenstance. It wasn't coincidental. I was there for a reason. And I don't know. I may not know what that reason is. Obviously the higher power does, but the point is I was there for that reason, to help those people, whether it was holding their hand during their last breath or being with those people on their worst day or whatever. We're there for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a reason for everything, and for everything there is a reason. And,
Exactly.
my wife's really big on that things happen serendipitously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I did go through a lot of my career questioning stuff, which was probably a big mistake that I'm realizing now, trying to figure out why.
Mm.
And instead of doing that, I should have just been looking forward and figuring out ways to help the situation versus trying to figure out a way to prevent something that had already had happened. We can't change the past, right? So what can we do to make our future better? What can I do to help you be better? What can you do to help me be better, right? I mean, those are the things that we need to look for, not why did I do this wrong, or, it's not going to solve any problems.
We will return after this quick ad break.
The William H. Bill Butler Jr. Foundation is on a mission to honor first responders and support those who serve. We provide scholarships for families who have lost a hero in the line of duty, offer second chances to juvenile offenders who are working to rebuild their future, and help new recruits pursuing careers as first responders. Through generous donations and the sale of merchandise, we're building a community that uplifts, empowers, and creates lasting impact. You can be a part of this mission as well. Visit 8158podcast.com to donate or shop today. Together, we can support those who serve, honor those we've lost, and give hope to those who need it most. Behind every badge is a story, and behind every story is a sacrifice. This is the 8158 podcast, where we honor the lives and legacies of first responders and their families. If our mission speaks to your heart, if these stories move you like they move us, join us on Patreon. For just $5 a month, you'll get ad-free listening, exclusive merchandise, behind-the-scenes content, and video episodes only available to our patrons. This isn't just a podcast, it's a movement, and you can be a part of it. Support us at patreon.com/8158podcast. Let's continue to share the stories that deserve to be heard.
Right. Now, was there anything like during your military career that you'd seen that might have been traumatic, like any deployments or anything like that?
I mean, pre 9/11, things were more training than actual war. I mean, with, like I said, having seen the Cole bombing, that's when things started changing, because that was the first time in a long time that our military was being actually attacked or hurt on that type of scale. I mean, obviously we had, the Gulf War and stuff like that, but that was something that we interjected on versus something that was happening to us. So seeing that, and then obviously what happened during 9/11, and that was life-changing. I mean, I had friends that were at the Pentagon during that plane crash that were not involved with what was supposed to be there, and all of a sudden they turned from, their paper pushing job into now search and rescue and that kind of stuff. So just hearing all the different things going on, having friends that were involved in different aspects of it, now being locked down on base, where before any civilian could pretty much drive onto any installation and be perfectly fine, to now everything is like tight. Everybody's getting checked. Everybody's, being treated totally different. Everybody's treated as like a criminal type of thing and locked down, that type of stuff. And then the society looking at you differently. California, most people around the base, like most people looked at you like shitheads, because it'd be one of those things where, Marines got all these girls pregnant. So everybody avoided Marines because they didn't want to be around, dating Marines because they, had a bad rap and stuff like that, to now people are thanking you for your service and people actually having pride in the country. Like that was way different. It was something you had to kind of get used to, because, everybody's like, thank you for your service. I'm like, all right, cool, thanks.
Yeah.
Like, what are you supposed to say to that? So in regards to that kind of stuff, it wasn't anything crazy because we hadn't done the invasion in Fallujah and anything like that, because that didn't happen until 2003. So
You were already out by then.
yeah.
Yeah, those are pretty. I heard a lot of stories about that stuff, and it didn't sound pretty.
Yeah, definitely different. Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of friends who re-enlisted. Some made it, some didn't. My son is now a Marine. I do have two girls that are Navy. One just recently passed away. So having three kids in the military is very humbling to myself, because they wanted to follow on my footsteps in regards to serving this great nation. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty intense that way.
Yeah. Now, I mean, if you're comfortable, would you like to talk about what happened with your daughter that had passed? I remember that in our threads and seeing that, and that was pretty heartbreaking. And we were all pulling for you. We
No,
understand.
and I appreciate everybody on the radio station has been top notch. Just so I can throw that out there. I mean, you guys are just, you, Jason, James, JJ, all those guys have just been top notch. So yeah, on December 13th, we were actually out to dinner because I was getting ready to graduate with my bachelor's degree in social work, so I can start my next career. So we went out to dinner, my wife and my youngest daughter, because I had three kids that were currently in the military. So my son's stationed at 29 Palms. He's getting ready to get out in July. And then my two twins had just joined a year prior at the same time. One was stationed in Chicago at the Great Lakes School, where she's finishing her schooling, and the other one was stationed in San Diego on the USS Ashland. And her name is Robin. And we, like I said, we were out to dinner on the 3rd, my wife and my youngest daughter, and we'd gotten a call from Robin, and she seemed to be in pretty good spirits, like nothing crazy. She was in an argument with her girlfriend over, just relationship type bullshit or whatever. And we were talking to her, and my wife was, doing the mom thing, and was like, hey, look at both sides of the circumstance. Like, I understand that you're upset on your side. This is why she's upset on her side. Kind of put yourself in her shoes so you can kind of see both sides of it. And Robin was totally cool with it. Like, there was nothing that stood out that would explain what was going to transpire just hours later. So following day, we were out shopping. We're at Walmart, and all of a sudden, we get a notification that somebody's at the doorbell. So we open up the Ring app, and there's two Navy personnel standing at our door. Me being prior military, I knew exactly what it was. The problem is I didn't know who it was dealing with, right? I got three kids in there, so couldn't tell you who was going to deal with. So we're talking through the microphone, and the lieutenant that was there was like, hey, we're here to talk to you about Robin. So my stomach had dropped, or my heart had dropped into my stomach. My wife started having she's almost having a panic attack as we're driving from the store home. And as soon as we arrive, they disclosed that there was an accident and my daughter had fallen from a building. So, military brain, cop brain, dad brain, all these different things are like, what happened? And we're not 100% sure, but I'm assuming, and I'm going to say it's a fair assessment that it was probably a suicide. And that's why it's really weird for us, because we were literally just talking to her the night before and she seemed to be perfectly fine. And I understand, usually the ones that actually commit the suicide are the ones that you don't expect to do it. The ones that are out, crying wolf and having that constant suicidal attempts and all that other stuff, they're the ones that typically won't do it. The ones that are quiet about it, those are the ones that will actually commit it. So yeah, man, we arrived on scene, got the word. I mean, our world just stopped right there for, that minute. Like, we had no idea what to say, no idea what to do. And then all the questions started coming in, like, what's going on? How could this happen? All the different things, because you never expect it to happen. It was one of those things like unexpected. And then we had to notify my other daughter who was in Chicago. So we had to do the Red Cross alert, because I wasn't going to call her and just tell her over the phone. So I needed to have a chaplain there, somebody from her command to be there physically to disclose that information, because there was no way I was going to do it over the phone. So we had to wait that hour to get somebody there, because obviously it was on a Sunday. So being that it's a Sunday, things are just going to move a little bit slower. So once they finally disclosed it, that was a whole another conversation that we had to have over the phone, and she's asking the questions that we couldn't answer. So then we had to set up, obviously, a flight for her to come back, get her home. My son had just come home that day because he was coming home for leave for Christmas vacation. So at least we had all of our family there, which was great, but it was shitty. Being that it was holidays, everything moved super slow because government's going to work on government time. I was graduating 2 days later from ASU, so I had to put on my happy face and go to my own graduation, which I didn't want to do, but luckily I did go because it was a good experience. And then, we have Christmas Eve. We have all these different things coming up now, New Year's Eve. And then we're waiting to actually get my daughter back home to where we can even do a funeral. And that was going to take time because San Diego PD had custody of her first. Then they had to transfer custody from them to the Navy. And then the Navy had to do their stuff. And then the Navy had to transfer custody from them to us. So I want to say it was literally 1 day shy of 3 weeks. We finally were able to get her home to do the Angel flight, where we received her at Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport. And I have to tell you, even though it was one of those devastating things, everybody involved was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, we had the 2 crash trucks from the airport there. We had a bunch of firefighters, a bunch of police officers there with their patrol cars. Everybody that was like working that terminal was outside standing and lining the plane as it pulled in, on top of the Navy Honor Guard doing their stuff to honor her the proper way. So it was like one of the most beautiful things, but also one of the most heartbreaking things that I had to deal with. But I will tell you, I have a great support group with my internal family, outside family, people at the radio station. I mean, everybody was just reaching out to us, which was amazing. So if, even though we didn't want to get those text messages of like, hey, how you doing? It was great to get those messages because it really showed how much people cared about us that had never even met Robin, in the first place. So it was just a very horrible and cool experience at the same time, if that even makes sense, So then 2 days later, we received her on a Friday. On that following Monday is when we actually got to do her burial at the cemetery. It was done with full honors, 21 gun salute, the whole, just a beautiful ceremony for something, like I said, so tragic. But it was one of those things that after every one of those events happened, more peace kind of settled within me to function more as a person. We still have our ups and downs. I mean, I'll be at the gym daily, hear a song come on. And this was a song that, we jam out to in the car, and I start crying, as I'm lifting weights. And it's just one of those things I'm just going to have to deal with. But that's part of being human. So, yeah.
Loss is never easy.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah, I can remember the call from my stepmother and hearing about Billy. Initially, I was just hoping that maybe he was just injured. Fortunately, that wasn't the case.
Yeah, No, and loss will never be one of those things that ever feel right, you know. But we just have to learn how to live with it and how to function with it properly, I guess is the best way to put it.
Right.
And I'm sorry for your loss as well. I mean, it's never a fun thing to deal with.
It was not. It was not a fun thing to deal with. I totally understand that. And yeah, like in your situation, it was a beautiful thing, but it was heart-wrenching, seeing the military was there and the changing of the guards, the police departments from around the state of Michigan. Every
Hmm.
15 minutes they would change out and they would guard his body. And yeah, sheriff's departments, city agencies like Detroit and all the major cities come out. Stood there with the rifles while we're doing the viewing and saying our goodbyes. And every 15 minutes they would change out. And that was an amazing thing. And seeing the outpouring of the community itself, not just with the departments. We had a lot of biker clubs that were there and they followed the motorcade and all that stuff. A lot of us were on the bus because we had to go from the college had donated their chapel because Hillsdale College is a Christian college and they donated it was huge, like I don't know what they call it, but it was huge. Anyways, so we had to get on the bus to go about 2 miles to the burial. And yeah, the plot where he's at, they pretty much own all of that now. But they had at least 50 yards of police, military, and the fire department and everything standing there. Yeah, just seeing
Yeah,
all of
that's
the line of
huge. That's
people on the
huge.
bus as we were on our way to the burial site was just very heart wrenching, but yet comforting, and to see that people cared that much.
Yeah, they wouldn't have done it if they didn't believe in the sacrifice that these service members, first responders, of the like do. And it's just like, I mean, they don't even have to know them at all, but they're willing to come and support, show their support, gratitude. Like, it's beautiful.
Definitely. Yeah, it definitely was. And so we can understand the loss. I mean, I haven't lost a child. I mean, I have two girls myself, and I wouldn't know what to do if I had lost one of them. But uh, my cousin, I've known him all my life. He's
Mhm.
51 years old. Out of that family, I'm not the youngest. I'm like, let's see, there's my cousin Billy actually is my brother Louis, or not Louis, but George. Billy and Louis are the same age. And then my cousin Christy, and then me, and then my younger siblings after that. So the
Big
hierarchy of
family.
anyways.
Yeah.
But we were the closest. The oldest generation were the closest because we all grew up together basically.
Yeah.
So it was a tough situation.
Yeah. It's definitely one of those things you don't want to do. But it's going to happen, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, I mean, just too soon. Especially, with your child, it's definitely too soon. The parents are always supposed to go before the children.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I never thought I would bury my own child, but I'm proud of her. There's not a moment that'll go by that I won't be proud of her. All of them. Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely are also proud of her, and we definitely thank and love her for her service and her devotion to our nation,
Thank you.
what she's done. And like we reached out to you before, we wanted to do a memorial dedication in her honor on our podcast. So if any information you want to give to us that you want us to put on there, we will do
Yep.
that. It'll just be a recording. It won't be like a live thing like we're doing right now. My wife will be doing the narration and stuff like that. Yeah, we'll do that for you. I mean,
I
we
would
do
be
pictures and
honored.
stuff, military veterans, so we would like to do that for you and show honor for her service as well.
I appreciate it. I would be truly honored. Percent.
So, yeah, if any information you want to give to us, you can email that to us to the podcast email, and she'll come up with something to put out there, and then we'll put the music and all that stuff to it, and we'll send her out proper.
Sweet. I love it.
Yeah, just to, show our support because that's what we're here for. Like I always tell everybody initially, this podcast wasn't about the mental health. It was about shining light on first responders and military veterans and just letting everybody know they're people too. And then we kind of evolved. Not only we still deal with that, but we evolved to the mental health aspect because the need was great. It was a lot more than we expected, because a lot of our guests had a lot of mental health dealing with the job, whether it's being in the military or whether it was being on the job, whether it's fire, EMS, even, law enforcement, dispatch. It's even the corrections. It's just astounding to see the things that our first responders are not getting the help they need.
Yeah, the stigma is very, very bad out there. And we talk about it all the time, right? Just it's okay to not be okay sometimes. And there are people here to help you get through it. Even in your darkest moment, there will always be somebody available. You just got to reach out, whether it's through you guys, through us. I mean, we have tons of resources. I mean, everybody on the radio show has a different, you know, either foundation or podcast or some connection to somebody that can help somebody. So if you're, a listener or a viewer of the podcast, you need to make sure you pay attention to what's out there because there's plenty of resources.
Exactly. Yeah. And a lot of people know that we do have a crisis number ourselves, and it is not my personal number, but the number will come to my phone personally.
Mhm.
So if anybody just wants to talk and they just want to talk to somebody, somebody listen. I am always there, and I will always pick up the phone and listen. So
That's exactly what needs to be out there, man. I appreciate that.
yeah, and I'm not a first responder. Never was in the military else, although I did have my opportunity, which I was working on, but I screwed those opportunities up. So this is my way of giving back.
Good for you, man.
So for anybody who's having struggles or troubles, they can call that number. It's always they can find it on Facebook, TikTok, and it's on Instagram as well. Yeah, it's the 8158 number. It comes through. If I see 8158, it'll show up, and then I'll pick it up. And because
Sweet.
I know it's important. And if they want to text, they can text too. And I'll text back personally. But I mean, we're doing events for first responders, and also we're going to the mental health awareness in Wilmington. We will be meeting up with. Hang it, I'm having a brain fart. I forgot said his name. We just interviewed him too. I always seem to like a lot of things going on in my head.
Is it somebody from the radio station?
Yes, Billy.
Oh, okay.
I don't understand why I can't remember his name because that's my cousin's name. Yeah, he's going to be there as well, and
Nice.
that's going to be fun. I'll get to meet up with them personally. And,
Yeah, we're gonna have to have a big get together with all the DJ hosts,
absolutely.
radio
I
hosts.
think that'd be pretty awesome.
We'll have to talk James into paying for it, though.
Yeah, a family reunion.
Yes, I like it.
That would be pretty awesome, and Brienne and I would definitely be down for that.
Sweet. Yeah, we'll have to talk him into it.
Yeah, you know what? That would be a great idea, and it'd be something that we can put out there, and hopefully it'll come through. Because I would love to meet everybody. I'm totally meeting you guys on the podcast, which is great. And I'm always willing to go on people's podcasts. If they ever want to know anything about me and my story and the things that I've been through and the things that I put myself through and how I got to where I am today, I'm always willing to do that. And I'm a big supporter of law enforcement and fire and EMS, because my family as well.
Sweet, man. Well, thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it. And we'll have to connect soon. And I will send over some information to you and Brienne in regards to Robin, so that way you guys can do that because I really appreciate that.
Yeah, we will do our best to give her the honors that she deserves, and we'll make it, great for, good send out, and we'll do our best with that.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Very welcome. I appreciate you coming on here and gracing us with your presence and telling your story. It really means a lot to us, and it's going to mean a lot to a lot of our listeners, and it shows a lot of courage and a lot of strength because I know how hard it is, especially going through something that you just recently went through. But there are other listeners and our other guests that relate to what you are going through, and it will help a lot of people.
Yeah, if anybody ever needs to connect, please reach out.
Yeah. So do you want to plug yourself and anything that you want to plug? Go ahead and do that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, they can reach out to the radio station, Inline Rock Station. Afterwatch Foundation, we have all the social medias on there. They can reach out to me personally and just find me on either LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever. And yeah, if somebody needs to connect or has questions or whatever, this is how we build relationships to get through some of those dark times. So definitely reach out.
Absolutely. So It's Patrick, everybody. Hopefully you've gotten something out of this story, and we definitely appreciate having you on here. It's been an
Thanks,
honor,
man. Thanks for
and
having me. I
hopefully we can
appreciate
see
it.
you soon.
Yes, sir. Sounds good. All right, man. We'll see you on the next one.
All right, brother. Take care.
Later.
See ya. All right, everybody. That was Patrick, former military and retired police officer. Actually, not police officer, but law enforcement. I think, yeah, did say Mesa, didn't he? Okay. Anyhow, he definitely had a profound story to tell. All of his kids are in the military, and obviously he lost his daughter, which is unfortunate. It's very sad. But we're going to do our best to honor her memory and honor the loss and show her the respect that she deserves and thank her for her service. All right, everybody. This is Rico, an 8158 podcast, Stories of Sacrifice. Until then, keep tuning in, keep listening, and show your love and support. And don't forget, download the Thin Line Rock Station, and it is free. It's free to listen to. It's free to download. So great station. You can hear some great DJs, great content, and also show your love and support for the 8158 podcast. Keep on listening, keep on tuning in, and keep on hearing our profound stories for our first responders and military veterans as well. Love you all. Have a wonderful day and a blessed evening. Thank you for joining us on 8158 Stories of Sacrifice. Every story we share is a tribute to the courage and resilience of first responders and their families. If this episode impacted, encouraged, or inspired you, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with someone who supports first responders. Follow us on all social media platforms at 8158 Podcast for updates. 8158 Stories of Sacrifice is a team effort. Rico brings the stories to life through casting, writing, original music, and editing. Brianne Shipley as production manager, handling booking, social media, graphics, promotion, marketing, website management, and logo design. Please visit our website at 8158podcast.com. For questions, collaborations, or to share your story, our email address is contactus@8158podcast.com. Until next time, let's continue to honor the legacies and remember the sacrifices of those who serve, every brave man and woman on the front lines, protecting and defending us all. This is Rico signing off and honoring 8158.